Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the J Free 906 podcast. We're here with Shannon and Jimm, and tonight our very special guest, Mr. Kaleb Bench. Kaleb, you are still muted. If you want to undo that real quick. How you doing, Kaleb?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Of course.
Jimm actually got a hold of me, and he's like, I've been talking to Kaleb, and we should probably have him on. I'm like, of course we need to have Kaleb on the show. That is so cool, but I really appreciate your coming on. And,
yeah, of course. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, because you have so many wonderful insights, and I know that you go through so many oddities out at the out at the ranch and stuff.
That's one way to put
it. And I see you're in. You were saying this is Tom's office that you're sitting in tonight.
Yeah, he's gone through and done some work in this and tried to organize all his tools and stuff. Yeah, so we've got a lot of updates that we're doing right now, and so the command center is pretty torn apart. So I decided it'd probably be best if I was in here. So
yeah, so great deal. So Shannon, it's been a while. How you doing?
It has. It's been a while. I've been doing well. How about you?
I'm fantastic. I know. And Jimm, Jimm, you heard the music that was playing there in the little intro video. I would just love to play the song. That is a song that was written and performed. All the instruments, everything's performed by Mr. Jimm Kjelgaard. So thank you, Jimm, for that. Wonderful music. I appreciate that very much. I wanted something that was cool yet a little eerie and kind of, upbeat and everything, and boom, he nailed it right there. So that's really good stuff. Did you know that he was such a good musician, Kaleb?
Yeah. Jimm actually sent me a bunch of that stuff also. I've actually been to Jimm's home and saw where he did all his magic at one point.
All the magic.
Very cool.
Ron, thank you, sir. Wow, that's 2 nights in a row. Ron, thank you. I really appreciate that very much. Appreciate it, sir. So season 4 of the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch was fantastic. The best one of yet. You guys with the and you call this a docu-series, correct? Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's what they have designated it as. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. I think that's really good because, and you guys were performing different experiments or exercises out there to try to figure out what is going on out at the ranch. And I mean, some of the things, and people, we get people quite often go, why do they shoot rockets so often? And I keep returning to them saying, because it gets results.
Yes. So, to touch on that, at Phenomicon this last year, we actually ended up shooting a bunch of rockets off with a bunch of the people that came, right? That was one of the extra things that people could choose to be part of, right? And so, the answer to that question, why so many rockets? Well, Travis, I thought, did a very good job of explaining this. It's a very cheap delivery system for equipment, right?
Yes.
Aside from, yes, it gets results because look at it this way, is we're using kinetic energy that could potentially be causing something, above the triangle. I don't know. I don't know if we have a good amount of data to show that. Yes, you shoot a rocket off here, something's going to happen. I don't know if we have that amount of data, but it's a very cheap delivery system. You can outfit rockets. They come in different sizes. They give you different power loads. You can do different things with them. Because do you know how much it costs to fly a helicopter for a couple hours?
I don't have any idea, but
rockets.
Lots and lots and lots of money. And let me put it this way, is tanks in the Marine Corps, we had the second highest budget next to aircraft.
Wow.
I know that running a tank all day long, if I went for 8 hours, I was doing 20 hours of maintenance afterwards.
Wow.
So it's I can only imagine aircraft and the cost of fuel and everything. So as much as we'd like to be able to have more platforms like that, it's just cheaper.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so, there's a lot of reasons behind why we do things that we're doing. So.
Yeah. And you guys load them up too. Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just going to say, and rockets are fun too. So I guess
who doesn't love to shoot rockets?
It's lucky that it is inexpensive and a quick way to get results. It's also fun.
I'll always shoot anything that I can. That's just me though. So.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
it gets results. That's the big thing.
Yeah, exactly. It always seems to. Yeah, that's then that. I remember last year, last season that we've season 4, when you were doing the duel. The one was shooting up from the mesa or off the mesa over, straight across horizontally, and then you were shooting one straight up, and that was really cool. And you had the two that almost hit each other. It came so close to actually hitting each other. And I know that on the show, you guys are out there filming, you got hours and hours and hours of film, and we're only seeing a very small portion of it.
Yeah, we did the math. I know we've talked about that before. We actually did the math, or Tom and Eric did, and you're literally seeing like less than 1% of total film footage.
That's crazy. Well, that's why I like having you on the show, because then you can share more stuff with us. Hopefully,
right?
as it goes
I was
along.
just thinking, like, you're making me think about that experiment, so I'm just going back through my photos. And
if you have any to share, we can do that.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I know the real reason why the ranch messes with Travis so much is it's an Alabama fan. I don't know if you can really see that really well, but the triangle makes the Alabama A right there.
It really does.
And I was just me and Eric were up in the air in the helicopter, and I looked over. I was like, wait a minute, I can't not take a photo of that and flip a bunch of crap towards Travis. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, we have to clarify though that Travis is actually an Auburn fan, not a University of Alabama fan. So just for some self-preservation there, Travis. Kaleb there.
Yeah, and that's why I said like the ranch messes with Travis because it's an Alabama fan.
There you go.
Apparently,
that's really cool. Yeah, I did want to tell everyone too out there in the chat. First of all, thank you all for coming here tonight. Really do appreciate it. We will be taking some questions from you guys here in just a few minutes. Well, in a little bit as we get going along here. But hold your questions until then. If you put them up now, they're gone. So you're going to have to ask them again later on. And Linda is the only one that's kind of working those. So go easy on her. But I'll tell you when we're taking questions. So please hold them until we get to that point in the show here tonight, because I want to get mine in first. I know Shannon's probably got some things, and so does Jimm, so but yeah, you guys, you're doing so many different experiments, and I got to hand it to you, first of all, simply because of the fact that you bring out so much tech. And each one of you guys, every one of you, Thomas and you and of course Eric and Travis and everybody is so, and Dragon, you're all part of this team of investigators and doing these experiments, and your eyes and ears, each one of you are part of this team that has become so important in getting to the answer of what's going on there at the ranch. And one of the questions I did want to ask you, I know because you are, involved in law enforcement, so you're out with the public and all of that. Do you get a lot of people coming to you out there? And we've already talked to you about, the whole side thing about being on Skinwalker Ranch and what you might get there. But do you get people coming up to you and going, I've seen this, or I've heard this, or I've experienced this? Do you get that much?
Yeah, I've gotten it a little bit more lately than the first couple years, for sure. Especially since the last couple episodes or the last couple seasons have come out. And we've caught more things that are really, crazy. And so let me hit like on the technology side. This is what I really like about what the show. So if you go back and you watch, say, from season 1 to season 4, take away all the music, take away all the editing, take away everything, right? You literally see the evolution of how we get to where we're at now, right? Like the first year, we had no idea what the heck we were doing, right? and we're like, okay, what can we do? What are we going to do? And you kind of see that, and they start going, oh well, let's maybe try this experiment. Maybe let's try this, and then something happens, maybe during filming or off season, that we go, hey, maybe we just had this happen. What can we do that will maybe recreate that, or that we might be able to get some more hard data from? And so now season 4 and what you're going to see in season 5 is a really good evolution of that. And so like the technology has been really cool, and that's where like Pete Kelsey, love that man to death. Very, very knowledgeable in his field. Oh yeah,
Pete, we love Pete.
Yep.
Yeah, Pete's a
Yep.
rock star.
He's a rock star.
He's an actual rock star too, which makes it
No,
even
yeah,
better.
literally a rock star.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy
Yeah, he'll
opened for
kill
Cheap
me.
Trick.
Right.
That-
He'll kill me if I tell you to ask him about his photos that he has from the.
Oh,
glory
I've
days.
seen some of them. He looks like Michael Bolton,
Yeah, me
like
Right.
back
too.
in the day. That
Right.
long hair.
Yep. It's awesome. But it's like he's taught me so much about how DPR and the photogrammetry and all of that works. And so it's been really cool actually being able to be hands-on using a lot of that equipment. And some of that you guys don't see, but I'm out there with Pete whenever he comes out using the equipment and helping him do these scans and it's just I get to hang out with Pete, and then he lets me play with his really expensive toys and hopefully I don't break them.
Yeah.
But that's been what's really cool about this in the long run is like I've been able to learn about all these different technologies and see how they really work and really gain that understanding and be there using them and really being able to ask like a Jan Frank how GPR really works,
Right.
and
very
really
cool.
get that understanding from like Jan Frank literally designs the systems for
Yeah.
these
Yep.
and has been in I don't know how many countries around the world, like 130 or something like that
Wow.
in his career the last 40 years. So this is the guy that knows about the technology he's using, and on top of that, you literally see when we're like, hey, by the way, if your stuff doesn't work, let us know because it could be showing something's going on out here. And you get the eye roll, you get the oh whatever, and then something happens and they're like, they don't know what to do.
They've been skinwalkered.
Yeah, they've been skinwalkers. Yes,
Right.
precisely. And it's been really cool. And like, that makes me think season 4 when Jan came out.
Yep.
I thought he was like a really good friend of Pete because they had him come out at the same time.
Wow.
So I thought Pete was the guy who was bringing Jan out, right? But I didn't know until afterwards that Pete was like, I don't know the guy. I've never met him before. I was like, okay. So it made it that much better when Pete was like going, hey, dude, if your stuff's probably going to wig out, don't freak out. It's legit. Like weird stuff happens out here. And so when it happened and Jan was like trying to go, he didn't want to believe it.
Yeah, I captured that look when he was rigging up with I guess he was looking at that apparatus, the unit that he had that Thomas was going to carry, and he was at the back of the truck and he was looking at his meter, whatever unit that was, and he's like, looking over. I captured that. I talked about it on the show because that was one of his things going absolutely bonkers.
And that was 100% in the moment.
Yep.
That I remember looking, and I was kind of standing over with Pete, and I started just chuckling. I was like, huh. and it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, imagine that the phone's not doing what it's supposed to here.
Yeah.
That would probably be my favorite thing is waiting for people's stuff to act up. I know it's part of like the job, but
Yeah.
I would very much enjoy that moment where you look over and you know that something has messed up and you warned them and getting to see their shock on their face.
Yeah, and I don't think they show it too much anymore, but a lot of we have a lot of, if you will, general questions and kind of a rundown that we do with anybody that comes out here, like pay attention to your health, pay attention to things like that. Even if you think you're just having a headache or whatever, let us know, please.
Yep.
When it comes to equipment, like we don't know why massive battery discharge, weird things that shouldn't happen on screens, what have you. And then we also ask like, what do you actually know about the investigation, or have you ever heard of us yet? Especially now with the show being out for as long as it has been.
Right.
And we still get a lot of people that come out and they're like, yeah, I don't really know much. And then something happens and they're like, what? And you see that look. And probably one of our really cool conversations. I can't remember if this was like Phenomicon or somewhere or on another one, but it was one of the third party people that we've had out, and they were like talking about when they came out to the ranch for filming, and they were going, yeah, I was expecting to be told what to say. I was expecting to kind of be given like some kind of script or something. And they show up and they're like, and the guys are, no, well, here's your stuff. Like, they kind of got the direction. Hey, can you park here? We're going to set up here. And then and the guys will start talking to you and they're like, what? Like,
So
no.
they're all in regardless.
Yeah.
That's
So
what's
it's
funny.
like, so they literally get thrown into the wolves with us and we start asking them the questions. We start explaining stuff to them. And we try to be like, hey, we are going to be doing like this for, they got to get like 4 different shots. So we were going to have the same conversation 4 times, but everything's real, everything and to go back to that, that was really cool for us to see these third party guys go, no, look, like we go out there and we get thrown to the wolves essentially.
Yeah, we've had people that have come on and said, "Oh, well," or in chat or in comments and whatnot, come on and say, "Oh, they script that. They're doing that on purpose because they want something weird to happen." And I go back to them and I say, "Absolutely not." And Jimm knows this very well, and so does Shannon, because you take somebody like the guys with the drones when they come out there. And they're Sky Elements. When they come out there with their drones, these guys put on professional shows all around the country, and they don't have issues. And if they're not going to want to be on national television, and that goes for Jan or any of them, Lunasan, any of these guys, when they come out on a national television show, they don't want to come out and have their equipment fail.
No, this is what better advertising do you get than a television show?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So they're coming out here going, oh yeah, I get to showcase my stuff. I get to help with this, and we've asked many of them the last couple of years, have you ever helped in like a scientific investigation? And many of them say no. It's outside of why their equipment is getting used. And yet what they bring to the table is potentially helping us get more data about what we're dealing with out here.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Even the failures.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of become like a rite of passage for vendors that come onto Skinwalker Ranch to have their equipment go bonkers. I mean, it's just from a fan standpoint, it's kind of interesting to watch that happen with each company that you bring on. They are rightly so. They're very confident in their tech and their abilities, and then it just kind of seems that the ranch always has a way of introducing itself to them.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And and we're serious about that. Like I don't know why. I don't know the reason behind it. It's but and as crazy as this still sounds, the ranch does react differently to different people. And I'm not saying every single person that comes out here reacts, but there are certain people, and so it's like I don't know the connection there, like and so we try to warn people, if we can beforehand. There's also we got warned beforehand, like when the ranch was changing hands, be careful, look for certain things in people, especially if they've been out for a long time. And it's kind of those things where we're like, yeah, whatever.
So you
Because,
did the same thing then that
uh,
the people
I-
that come onto the ranch do, like, okay.
well, I didn't have. So there were definitely guys on the team that did. Oh, excuse me. There were definitely guys on the team that had that attitude. I was a little bit more, okay, this is cool. Like, and I started hearing the stories, and I was more like, oh yeah, I guess maybe. I was like, yeah, okay. Like, I wanted it to be real, but I was like, it was still kind of in this realm of, oh, okay, you're kind of talking about magic a little bit, or
Right.
those crazy things. And I was like, okay, like I'm open to it being legit, but I was still like coming from the world of, yeah, you only hear about that stuff in stories.
Right.
It's just fairy tale stuff, right?
Now that you've touched on it, excuse me. Now that you've touched on it, if you don't mind my asking, how did you originally get involved in working at Skinwalker Ranch?
So,
if you don't mind telling that story.
Oh no, it's fine. So Brandon acquires the ranch in 2016, and within a week, he has Uncle Jimm come out and start putting feelers out in the community and getting to know people and come and look at the property and see what is out here, And Jimm ends up staying at a hotel, and at that time, it was owned by Thomas Winterton, and Thomas is my brother-in-law.
Okay.
And Jimm and Thomas hit it off, and is like, hey, you want to come out and do? Tom had his contractor's license, so he could do like building inspections and stuff. And Jimm asked him to come out and inspect the property and stuff with him. And Tom didn't know it was Skinwalker Ranch at first, and then he finds out. He's like, oh heck yeah, I'll come do that. And then within a week or so, he meets Brandon, and about a year later, Brandon asked Tom if he knew anybody in the area local that could do security, because he started getting more reports or seeing more stuff online.
Yep.
Of people potentially wanting to come onto the ranch and do stuff without permission and things. And so he reached out to Tom, was like, hey, do you know anybody in the area that can do security out there? And Tom was like, oh yeah, my brother-in-law's a big dude, he's in the Marines, I'm sure he'd love to do it. And I was like, yeah, at that time I wasn't doing like law enforcement or security work and stuff. And so Halloween 2017 was my first day out here.
Oh wow, on Halloween.
Yeah. So I
How's
was
that
like,
coincidence?
yeah. And so like I remember getting a phone call from Tom earlier in the week and going, hey, can you come out there? I was like, yeah. And my wife was like, wait, where are you going? I was like, someplace, I was like, someplace called Skinwalker Ranch or something. And she's like, wait a minute, what?
Oh, she knew about it.
Yeah. So Skinwalker Ranch is obviously like a local, where all the high school kids take their girlfriends to scare them, and so they can snuggle up close later at night, kind of thing. And the guys can act like they're big and macho and stuff.
Yep.
So I was like, yeah, okay. And she was like, do you know where I was like, no idea. And so that was kind of my introduction, and no, nothing happened that night. And it was kind of, I remember thinking like, I started hearing the stories, Tom started talking about stuff, and I was like, what? Okay. Like, okay, that'd be cool if something happens, but I was like highly doubtful still.
Right.
As much as I wanted something to happen. Right. But it wasn't until March that I started having some experiences. And then later that year, so that it was 2018 in June is when I first had my first big thing out here. So
wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So then, and you were introduced, and then right off, like you said, in March you got your first experiences, and then things, and you have had a lot since then. I know you've shared some on the Insiders program when you guys do the Q&As and stuff and whatnot. You've shared some things on there. Obviously your phones you still have phone issues quite often, do you? Or is you got that or they found other ways?
Yes and no. Not as frequently as before. And so I don't know if it's like it messes with my phone a lot for 1 year, and then it jumps to another person, messes with their phone a lot for 1 year, but I've still had issues with my phone. Weird things happen. Tom's been the one that has had more recent, and I think he kind of mentioned this in our last Q&A for the Insiders. But he was talking about, apparently his phone was sending out weird messages with weird characters to all sorts of people, and he had no record of texting these people, and I'm talking people he hasn't talked to for maybe years.
Wow.
And they get this weird message, and they're like, and they call him a day later, or they're like, why are you sending me this? And he's like, I didn't even know I sent you a message. And he'll like take a screenshot, and there's no record of him sending anything to these people, but they have a message from Tom on their phone. Wow. And so it's, I don't.
And without having a record on his phone, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we've seen yours. We saw it on the program, on the TV, on the show, and it was just scrolling numbers by faster than anybody could possibly type. There's no way anybody could type that fast.
No,
it's literally going nuts.
Yeah, it's almost like almost like an AI or something sitting there putting in these numbers. Yeah, so, who knows?
So one question I have for you, Kaleb. Now I know we see particularly on the Insider group, both on Facebook and on Discord, we see a lot of insiders take advantage of the fact that UFO Valley campground is right up there by the border of the property. Does it ever create any distractions or issues whenever people kind of go up to that property line and maybe even sometimes try to cross whatever barrier is there? And does that, how does that, if at all, impact the research and the work that you guys do there at Skinwalker Ranch?
You're touching on a iffy subject there, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because so like my thought is I always look at stuff from a security sound point of view.
Right.
So let me just put it this way: is anytime somebody's up there, I don't like it because I don't know who's up there. I don't know what they have. They have an elevation advantage on me. They have all sorts of stuff, and I have received messages. I'm not the only one. Every guy on the team has received messages from people who are off their rocker. And so when you have something like that, I really don't like it. And so there are things that I really don't like about it. And it's really hard for me to, so that's probably the most I'll go into that subject at this point.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But like I can tell you, I've dealt with people out at our front gate that are not good characters. And I was out there with some other officers. I had them come out because I had individuals down saying they had guns and body armor and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know the frame of mind these people are in. And we're pulling them out of the car, just like a felony stop, doing stuff that I do on the law enforcement side. So it's like, yeah.
It just
all
adds an
sorts of
extra element to
absolutely.
everything that you're doing. Like,
Yeah. So I look at it as an extreme security risk. And I've had things happen where, and honestly, the ranch is the reason why I got into law enforcement. Because of things that happened out here. And I was like, all right, like I have got to, one, be able to protect myself, liability wise. I got to understand the laws of Utah a lot better. I got to know how law enforcement is going to look at stuff. And so that's why I'm in law enforcement now, is because of the ranch and things that have happened out here. And I'm not saying stuff happens. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and has it helped then? Do you feel like being in law enforcement has helped?
Oh, yeah.
Reach that goal?
Tremendously. Yeah.
That's good.
Wow.
And so, like, yeah, I had my military background and stuff, but at the same time, it's like, well, they're skills, they're perishable. And so if you're not doing stuff all the time to keep those skills up, you have they're there, but you could lose certain things, right? So, and being in the military, it'd been a few years since I'd been out, so I was like, yeah, I don't have like, that. I felt like I needed to get back into something, and law enforcement was a good fit.
Well, absolutely. That's great. Unfortunate, and I have to be honest, and I was actually working on this little video because when I was at Phenomicon, when we were leaving Phenomicon and we were heading down, going down south, going over west and then south in Utah, I had to go to the stop sign. I just like anybody else, I'm here. I got to go do that. So we did. We drove, Christine and I, we drove down the road there, and I did a little video standing in front of the stop sign. And there was the UFO, campground thing sign right there too. But I said right on there, I said, well, here we are. And this is as far as we can go, right here to the stop sign. And I said, this is what everyone should honor this, because the guys are over here. This is private property. You're not allowed to be on this private property. Stay the heck off of it, So, and that's what I said in that little video. I was actually going to show it tonight. And I thought, nope, I don't want to take away from Kaleb's time. So.
You're fine. You're fine.
But that's exactly.
And like, hitting on that is like, we've seen that things have happened out here. I've had injuries happen out here. Tom's had injuries. Obviously, people see that one all the time. Things have happened to people out here, and at the end of the day, it's like there are things, and this kind of gets into a subject that this isn't probably a place to talk about it, but like, I don't think the laws in America really reflect the idea of what people think they are. So if you trespass on somebody's property and you end up getting hurt, you should have no dang right to sue that property owner. You should have right.
I completely agree.
To have any of that happen. And yet we live in a society where if someone came out here and trespassed and hurt themselves, Brandon, me, whoever, we could get in trouble and financially get in trouble. And it's like, no,
that's wrong.
Yeah,
It's
that's
completely
I mean, that's everywhere too. We have to have
yes.
a lock on our trampoline just in case kids decide to come into our yard, get on it, and get hurt while we're asleep so that we
Yeah.
don't get
And,
Yep.
yeah,
sued for
and
injury.
it just goes completely against all common sense and everything. And
Yeah.
you know, and there's things there that just drive me nuts. And so it's like, again, why we're so careful. And yes, we've, you know, I'm sure you guys are all aware that History Channel did this giveaway thing where we brought a insider out onto the ranch
Oh
and
yes. Yep.
you
Wait, it
know,
was an
did that.
insider or just like a regular? I thought it
He was
was
an
just
insider. I
he
think it was
was.
open
He was
to,
also an insider.
yeah, he's an
That was
insider. So
lucky.
yeah, so he got really lucky. Great guy. We loved having him out here, but that was like one of those things we had to get special permissions. You know, Brandon gave permissions for him to come out, things like that. So yeah, that's like the only time we've ever done like a tour like that. And then obviously Brandon, you know, it's his ranch; he can bring whoever he wants out. But you know, we don't obviously do like tours and stuff like that because of what's happened. And you know, Tom can speak to this a lot more because he actually deals with the insurance people about this, and they're like always going, "Do you guys just bring anybody out here?" And we're like, "No, like, you know, it is actually a very rare thing considering, you know."
I imagine too, because every person could elicit a response from the ranch as well. That if you were doing tours or something, and it did elicit some sort of data, for example,
Yeah,
I would say data, even though it's like a response,
Mhm.
then it could be lost, and you would never be able to figure out what specifically caused it, and you're just losing opportunities to collect more information
yeah,
as well, on top of it being dangerous. But
Right.
yeah, and people that have been invited out and um been well, you know, and been brought out by Brandon and stuff, we always give them the same um, you know, rundown that we give everybody about like the health. If anything happens, sometimes it's not always like that day. Things
Mhm.
can happen a week later or two.
Right.
And if anything happens, please don't overlook it. Please don't write it off. Please get back to us and let us know if something happened. Because we don't know. And just like
Yeah.
what you're hitting on, it's potential data that can help
mhm,
in the long run help us put this puzzle together.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's so true. And so, yeah, I understand that so much. And that's why, if more people had that respect, and that's why I did that. I will put that video out at some point.
Hmm.
Simply one of the reasons is because I'm saying to everyone on there, here we are. I'm showing the video driving down the road to the stop sign. You can see the stop sign coming. We pull around and stop right there. And then I say, this is as far as we're allowed to go. And I
Yeah.
want people to see that. It's like, you know, honor this because
You
it is
know, and you know, honestly, like when obviously we get the we kind of joke we get the pilgrimage out there where people come down, they take their photo in front of the sign and stuff, and I'm like, great,
that's me.
you know, that's great. I personally can tell you the person who's traveled the furthest that I've personally spoken to is from Australia that
Wow.
I've been out, and we're like, it still blows us away, you know. Tom, he's spoken to people from all over the dang place too, like whenever we're coming in and out.
Yep.
And we're like, like this is all you can really see. And they're like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're like,
Mhm.
you just spent how much money driving, the time? It still blows
That's
us away, you know.
that's why I'm so glad that something like the Insiders program
Yeah.
exists.
Oh
And
yeah.
sorry to be a shill for the Insider
No,
program,
no. I was going to bring it
No,
up
you
too.
are just fine.
but but
Insiders. Come on.
but yeah, I mean, truly, I mean, I think the world of you, Kaleb, and everybody there at the ranch, but I'm not brave enough to set foot on the ranch, even if I had the opportunity to. And but just all the great advantages that we have of being insiders, to have access to the cameras there on the
Mhm.
property 24/7, and to be able to interact with Eric and with Thomas and with yourself and with Dragon, um, and to have access to some of that data it's unprecedented. We've never had anything like that. And so
Yeah.
whenever I see people, or whenever my friends ask me about Skinwalker Ranch, I'm like, hey, if you want to know what it's like, check out the Insider program, because that's the best way to get a really truly inside look of what Skinwalker Ranch is all about. And yeah, I think that if more people took advantage of that, then you guys would probably have an easier job with what you do in particular,
You know,
taking care of the place.
and kind of going back to like the trespassing issue and things like that, you know, that's what one reason why we're trying to do the insider thing is, look, we're trying to be open about the investigation for one.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe you can't come out here physically, but hey, you now have access to a bunch of cameras. You have access to ask us questions and stuff. You know, and that's helping us do our job out here.
Right.
And so it's and yeah, show me another show where you can actually talk to the people and go interact with them and stuff.
There isn't one. You
No,
can't.
there
There
isn't.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's just so much about the transparency that occurs there. I think that's the only thing that kind of irritates me is when I see anybody in another sort of online forum, you name it, talk about non-transparency or like show us this or show us that. I can't imagine another place having so much transparency. You guys have have spent so much time and have given access to so much stuff, but you also still have to guard things as well. Like it's an
Yeah.
for one, I know obviously there's NDAs and stuff with the History Channel, but it's an ongoing investigation. It wouldn't I wouldn't imagine an ongoing investigation being conducted by anyone else, law enforcement or a detective, something like that. You wouldn't just splay it open for the public. Like,
No.
I don't know. I think it's awesome. And I agree with you, Jimm, that if people want to know or get closer to it, then it's a great way to do so.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I know.
It's one of the best investments I've ever made, and I mean
granted.
that. I mean that truly, and you get so much more beyond that. I mean, it's I think John Nyberger in the chat here just mentioned it's kind of like having a second family. I mean, I've become very good friends with some of the insiders, and particularly recently when I went through this the loss of my parents, the fact that so many of the insiders, when they found out about it, they reached out to me and were there to offer their condolences and their support. I mean, these people are just they're amazing people, and it just kind of trickles down from that unity that you have as a team there at Skinwalker Ranch, that you can see it, how well you guys interact with each other, and it trickles down to what the insiders are. We're all kind of like we're all in this together kind of thing, and it's a real privilege for me anyway to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, me too.
I also think that it's clear you guys aren't like TV stars, I guess if I were to say that, because you're so, even though you are, right? Like, I think it's another vote of confidence in the work that you're doing being authentic is because you are so incredibly down to earth and so humble. You don't come across as pompous, like jerks, I guess, because you're on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, it was so far outside of any of our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Really. So far outside of it. Yeah, so and I really like what you brought up there, Shannon, with like how quickly really you get information in regards to the investigation going on. Like I just learned this last year, like NASA gives people like 2 years before they can release anything.
Wow.
To do experiment after experiment to really get the data down. So it's like a 2-year minimum before they can release anything. You know, so they can really go in and dive down and really make sure what they're doing is, you know, the results are correct. And you know, and on the police side of things, yeah, you're not getting information from active investigations that law enforcement tries to put statements out, but they do so in a way where information's protected. They're not, if they're still looking for somebody, they're not trying to scare the person more, because sometimes they don't know if they realize that we do know who they are, kind of thing. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that you got to take in consideration. And yet we're doing something, and 9 months later, you're literally seeing the results of what these experiments are doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking
And that's
of,
go ahead, please, Shannon.
sorry, I was just going to say, because I wanted to ask you this, and since you brought up the thing about NASA and the 2 years, it's been in the news recently about the cosmic ray that hit in May of 2021 to Utah.
In Utah.
In Utah, which seems very coincidental, but obviously it happened 2 years ago, and now
Mhm.
they're letting the public know that it registered.
Hmm.
Do you know anything about it? Are you allowed to say anything? No?
Honestly, this is the first time I've heard it. I
Okay,
have not been as involved in some news, if or
okay.
getting news, if you will, just because so much of it just pisses me off at this point.
True that.
So,
So I don't.
Sk
I'm
Skinwalker
kind of
Ranch
just.
has come up in comments in regards to this because it's so conveniently been detected. I assumed it was because of the equipment that was used to detect it, but it sounds like
Mhm.
it actually hit the general area.
You know,
So,
uh, I think it'd be a good question. Uh, I can ask Eric and Travis more about it.
yeah.
And I think Travis and Eric, I think would probably be the best ones to
Okay.
throw that question to. Um, honestly, this is the first time. There's a mouse right there.
No.
It's cold outside,
Because you're
of
in the
course.
closet.
Right? Yeah. This is the first time I've heard about it, to tell you
Okay.
the truth, Shannon. So I don't know, but it
Okay.
would be interesting to go back and look at the dates.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you right now, Eric has been up to his eyeballs in these in going through he's got these like 8 uh what is it? He's got these storage devices and they hold like 8 terabytes of information each one.
Wow.
And he's got I don't know how many of these, and he's literally going through right now, year by year, and cataloging everything
That's so much work.
and putting the date in, and he's like going in and looking because there's the actual like created date,
Hmm.
and then there's like modified dates, and then there and all these other dates that are attached to all the metadata, and he's literally going through every single one of these and putting it where it's supposed to be.
Wow.
and,
Wow.
and for this exact reason, so we can go back and go, okay, I was thinking about this experience or this experiment. Do you remember that? Oh yeah, let's go pull it up, and we can actually pull up and look at the dates, and we can start looking at all these different things. So he's been doing this since the weather's got cold the last couple weeks. Like, he's doing it.
And he never
Being up all
sleeps. We
night.
know
He
that.
never
Yeah.
sleeps.
Yeah.
The man does not sleep. I know.
No.
Will be
So
interesting, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. So it would be cool to get the dates for when that event happened and go back and look at stuff.
Yeah. Let us
Right.
know if you find out about that. If you're allowed to. Yeah, that'd be great to.
Oh yeah. So like, when did you say it happened, Shannon?
May of 2021. I think maybe the
Right.
21st.
Right.
It was in May of 21, and they've just
They-
released this information. So,
Okay. So this is 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
yeah,
2.5.
which is
So-
why I thought of it because you said the NASA thing
Yeah.
that they're just now making it public.
Yeah. So I was actually having a conversation with Don Mitchell earlier today about some stuff, and um, it does make me think because I'd have to go look and see see if I could find when this happened, but this is honestly kind of one of the things that I'm touching on this book that I'm working on. Is I had this personal experience happen at my house, and I don't know if you guys may have heard this or not. I can't remember, but essentially, I went to sleep, and I can't remember the last time like I remembered a dream. Like I just it's been years since I've remembered what my dreams are, but um, I started in my sleep feeling like something was coming for me, something like was hunting me or wanted to hurt me, or kill me or something. And I just remember being very disturbed, and um, I I wake up essentially sweating, my heart is racing. Um, I'm ready for a fight. Like literally feel like something's there to kill me, and I see this personage in my room,
Holy
and
crap.
I grab my gun and I'm like, oh shit, someone's here. Like someone's dying, me or him, kind of thing, and it just disappears. And like I know I saw what I saw, and it's like there's stuff like that I don't know. And I remember texting Eric the next day and going, hey, this is what happened. I had, or asking, hey, did something else happen on the ranch or did something happen? And I was like, hey, just be aware, like something happened to me, and it was totally outside of. I've never had this happen before, and it made me think about when Eric and Travis woke up on the ranch, very close together, and they and Eric described that like he woke up and he like had that same terrified that this very heavy physical reaction to what was going on, and Travis at the exact same time something was happening in his trailer, right? And you actually see them talking about this in the television show, and this led Eric to finding something in Orion's belt that you see in season 3. And so
Very
it's
cool.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yep.
so yeah, it's just very interesting that you bring that up, and now that I'm thinking about the timing, it was around that time that happened to me.
So you had that that dream for you happened about 2 years ago, is what you're saying, Kaleb? Is that right?
Yeah, around that time, May or June, somewhere in there.
Oh,
Well,
that's
I-
wild.
Well,
I don't want to get into the details right now, but Jeff, I'm sure you probably saw my reaction when
yeah,
you
I
mentioned
did,
that.
and I know where it's going.
I had, and I kid you not, Kaleb, back about April or March, I had an exact similar kind of experience that happened to me where I saw this, for want of a better word, a shadow being, and same exact, I mean, to a T. I mean, I've got the hair standing up on my. I mean, it gives me chills right now. The fact that you brought that up. So that's next time you and I talk, I'll have to fill you in more on my story. But that's really interesting that.
And that's where I'm trying to remember, because I know we've had one of those conversations, Jim, where you shared something like that with me.
Yeah.
And Jim, you live in the same area. You live in Utah, correct?
I live in
Utah. Thereabouts.
I live in Utah, but I live about 2.5, 3 hours away to the west and about due west of where the ranch is. So
I'm
not
just
terribly
thinking.
close.
I mean, the ray coming down. That's interesting.
Yeah, and so that and that's I saw some comments. Yeah, I've been working on a book about all this stuff.
And that's the surprise, folks.
That's the surprise.
Yeah, that's
Hey.
the surprise.
That's the big reveal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the book for a bit,
Yes,
Kaleb.
please.
Tell us about that.
So, yeah, I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm like 40,000 words into it right now.
Wow.
But all my goal is, I'm starting from like around the time that I find out about the ranch, and I'm literally just trying to go chronologically with the experiences that I had happen. Some off the ranch, some on, and that's where I'm trying to decide still on sharing some stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how open some people are going to be about certain things, but at the same time, it's like I feel some of those things are very important to understanding, like the journey there too.
I mean, if people are reading your book, they're probably very open. I say
Yes,
put them in
I
there if you
agree.
feel compelled to do it, because
Yeah.
anybody who is picking it up is
yeah,
likely going to be pretty open-minded.
yeah, and that's where I was like, yeah, people probably would, but then it's also like some of it's still personal,
Yeah, you're putting yourself out there. Yep.
Yeah,
Understandable.
and it's just because I had a very powerful experience happen to me like years before I ever came to the ranch and stuff, and I can't help but feel like it was something that it totally changed the direction of how I was doing things in my life, and then that led to me finding some other information, and I'm very much into like the manifestation and self-improvement stuff, and I look back and there's things that I can't help but say, like, really look at it and go, like, that's probably some pretty good evidence that this stuff works, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
And I cross over into like and it crosses over into religious stuff, but then it's also like later on the ranch, like I said, look, the ranch is why I'm in law enforcement, and mainly the experience that happened on the ranch that made me get into law enforcement is we had some devil worshippers come out here, and I do talk about that stuff. And this is the thing is, I guess the main goal of the book is to really show you guys again the chronologically what's I've gone through, and experiences that I went through, and I had no idea that this was something that other people had experienced. And so, like, a good example of this is, again, those devil worshippers. And then years later, as I'm really heavy involved in law enforcement, I go to a bunch of suicide calls, and the same exact dark, heavy, evil energy that is inside those suicides in those rooms and stuff. That was the exact same energy that was here on this ranch when those devil worshippers came out here and did whatever they did.
Wow.
Exact same stuff.
Wow.
And so, and then I one of the experiences that I talk about, and I think I've shared this before, is one of the first things that I ever had happen out here, probably the big thing that made me go, okay, really, what's going on out here? Like, this is crazy. Was I was out here with two individuals, and it was like 1:30 at night. I'm basically babysitting them because they were given permission to come out here. And we're out there between Homestead 2 and Homestead 3. And essentially, like, let me do this. So, like, it's dark, like it's nighttime, and literally this green light that you see, imagine standing out in the field, but it's dark, these lights are not on. Like, you're out in the middle of the night like this, and all of a sudden, all around me, it's green.
Wow.
Right? And it's just like someone literally flips this light switch, and I can see the mesa plain as day.
Wow.
I can see the trees. I can see Homestead 2 and Homestead 3, but it's green. And I'm like, and I look at these two guys, and they're looking at, these two people, and they're looking at me like, what the crap is going on? So I know it wasn't just me. And I flip around because I like some light or something, And so we flip around, and right above Homestead 2, there's this light that's descending out of the sky, a controlled descent.
Wow.
And I don't know if this went like, so there's the line of trees, and the Homestead 2 sits right there. And I don't know if this light was right above Homestead 2. I don't know. Or if it was a little bit further east, like above the mesa. And the moment that light went behind those trees, gone, and everything goes back to normal.
Wow.
Like normal night, right? And so I was like, what the crap? So I immediately get on and text Brandon, let Eric know what was going on. Just like, I was like, okay, police report kind of thing, or military report. And so I sent this to him, let him know what happened. And then years later, we bring Chris Bartell out. And, I get to know Chris, and the first year we talked about some stuff, and I talk about a lot of this in the book too. And I want to say it was the second year that he came out again, that we brought him out again. And he starts talking about this experience where he's up here at the command center, gets in his truck, and he's headed down to the front gate. And in his mirror, he sees like this flash of light or something, and it stops and like looks back, and above the command center here, in between these trees that we have out here, there's this light descending out of the sky. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And I, asked him about this. And so that's like one example of a lot of the stuff that I've experienced is I experienced something out here. I had no idea that it was something that somebody else experienced.
Yeah.
And years later, I find out. And this is where one of the things that I'm really excited about with season 5 is there's a lot of stuff in season 5 that's very validating for me.
Yeah.
Because of other experiences that I've had. Some of you guys, if you go back as insiders, if you go back and look at some of the things I'm talking about, and you pay special attention to some stuff that, again, I don't know if they're going to show some of it, but it's going to be very hard for them not to, I think, because a lot of it's very cool, like some of that holy crap stuff. And that's where I got to get this book out, because when people really take that the last 6 years and line up all this stuff that I've seen, and then you start seeing the evidence that we get, and you start seeing this hard collection of data. Like I can't not help but be like, you guys, like people need to know that, because it's just, how can you not, like, I think it just adds to what we're doing out here, and will really give people another level of understanding of like what's going on personally with people and stuff.
Yep.
So
And to think, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Shannon. I assist.
I was just gonna say, and to think like if Chris hadn't, that's a picture.
Yeah, this
if
is a
Chris-
picture of Chris. Chris came to me at Phenomenon, and he had 2 pictures. He said, "Jeff, I want to give you one of these pictures. You pick out which one." And I grabbed this one immediately.
Beautiful.
And you see this right here, what looks like maybe it's a sun flare, who knows? But it's Homestead 2.
yeah.
And you see
I have a
that
picture
right
framed right above me that Chris actually sent me too of
Ah.
the ranch. He's such a good guy. He
Bartel
really,
is
really
such a
He's
great
just,
guy. I
like,
just think the world of
the
him.
best.
Oh yeah, Chris and I are, yeah, very close.
I was just gonna say, like, it's great that, I mean, if he hadn't been out there at that moment and felt compelled to tell you that story too,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
you could have never known. And
Yeah.
you have to wonder how many other stories like that might exist that would validate all these other things you've experienced and just haven't had the opportunity to have it expressed to you, I guess.
Oh,
So-
and I think it's only fair to people who are like watching the show, because you're never going to see that on the show. You're never going to hear that story.
Yep.
Or a lot of these stories, you're never going to hear them on the
Right.
show, because their mentality of, if it didn't happen on camera, they're not going to talk about it, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, I just feel like it's fair to people who are very interested in this subject to know. And it's one of those things that I've talked with my wife about, because some of them are stories that happen at my house. They're very personal things.
Yeah.
And it's, talking with my wife, going, is this something that we should share, or is this something that, and at the end of the day, we're like, yeah, especially I've been out here for 6 years now, and the stuff that has happened, because like I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me now. Like I've experienced something like, one of the really cool ones, honestly, is that green light. I told Eric very soon. He asked me all sorts of questions about it, very early on. And if you go to the Insider website, I'm sure it's buried in there. One of the first videos I did is Eric and I are out there talking about it, and I'm sharing that story. But this is where Eric, he's always hiding stuff, I feel. not to be mean or anything, but he knew about when Brandon changed and Bigelow. When Brandon acquired the property from Bigelow, they had some meetings out in Salt Lake with some of the individuals, right? And Jacques Vallée is one of those individuals. And Eric was shown one of his diaries, and in it he talks about a green flash of light.
Wow.
So years later, Eric did the homework and was able to find this picture where in this journal of Jacques Vallée, where he's talking about this green light lighting up the whole area. I had no idea. That I experienced that within 6 to 8 months of me being introduced to property. And here there's a personal journal from, I guess Jacques Vallée is a pretty big deal. I don't know. I've never met the guy.
He's a big deal.
Yeah.
He's a pretty big
Right?
deal. Yeah, at least in this community he is. I mean,
Right?
I would say.
He's an OG. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I had no idea who this guy is. I heard his name in passing for a couple, me being out here. This was never my wheelhouse, right?
Right.
And Eric a year ago was showing me this journal entry of what he's describing. And I'm like, what more do you need? And it's one of those things, again, why I'm getting this book out, because people, I think it's fair for them to know what I've experienced, and it is what it is. I don't know why. I don't know why I've experienced all this stuff. I don't know.
Well, first of all, Kaleb, let me say thank you for being willing to share those experiences in this book. And I know from my side of it, I think it's going to be an instant bestseller, because I know that the experiences that you're going to share are going to be very personal ones. They're going to hold a great deal of value, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be in everybody's book collection. That's a fan of Skinwalker Ranch and just simply wants to get a better understanding of what this phenomena really is, and what better person to give us an inside look
I know.
than you or one of your teammates there at Skinwalker Ranch. And when you first told me about that you were writing the book, Kaleb, I instantly got excited. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get my eyes and my hands on this thing to read it. So whenever you get that finished, let us know, because I will do whatever I can to shout it from the rooftops to tell people, hey, check this out.
You got to come back on the show and talk about it when it gets when it's
mine too.
Yes, yeah, the Soul of the Unexplained. You betcha.
I need a good editor. That's where I'm at. I think, because one of the things that I want to do, and this is where I got really excited when Eric told me he was going through all these, all these. Oh my gosh, these oh my god, all these databases that he has with all these photos and all the recordings and like literally everything that we've done for the last 7-8 years. Is if I'm able to go through and do it like a printed version of this, I'd love to. I have all these photos that when I'm talking about these things, I'm going to put it there so you can see what the photo is, or a screen capture of the video, right? And obviously it's going to be something that I can do where I can go through and put these videos on the website so people can literally read the book and go to that video and really get that good understanding of what happened and what we were going through, and really try to put you there.
Yeah,
is what
brilliant.
I'm trying to.
Simply brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait to get. Any idea when we're getting?
Well, kind of like
put you on the spot on that. I know.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Even an editor who can, and maybe who I that's where I'm like, I know I could probably self-publish it, but that's where I'm like, I gotta figure out how to do all that. So, my goal, that's kind of what I've been focused on the last couple of months, is really getting this done, because I'd like to have it out when season 5 comes out. Because again, some of the stuff that we caught in season 5, it's like, let me put it this way: is if you go back and watch season 3, especially the telescope experiment, there's some stuff that I'm talking about with that laser.
Yeah.
That I'm really excited when some stuff from season 5 comes out, because I'm like, that's exactly what I saw.
Wow.
And we've got some really cool photos and videos of things that have happened. And yeah, like season 5 is going to blow people away. And I'm like, if I can give people more of a inside experience of what I've gone through, at least, maybe they'll look at this,
Well, I was going to say, you have a really unique opportunity, because you're the only think about, there's nobody else that can write book. Right.
Like, exactly.
It's not something that is conjecture, like that, that anybody could do.
Yeah. So, and I guess I'm trying to take that experience of being an officer and writing all these dang reports I've had to do over the last years, and try to present it, here's the situation, here's the evidence, and here's kind of what's happened, right? And so I am excited about it. It's something where it's like, part of it too is for me to have like a journal, if you will, and really make sure I have a lot of this documented, so it's, I'm going through and going, oh my gosh, like, when did this really happen? Like, because I want to be as chronologically as I can.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, some of it's, happened 5 years ago. Some of it, I'm like, oh man, did that? I'm trying to line up.
Wow. That's great. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good.
And you have great support, as evidenced by some of the comments I'm seeing in the chat.
Yeah.
People are just going to be chomping at the bit to get their hands on that book, Kaleb. So
well, you already sold about 160 copies, or
right?
More
already, and anything that we can do as the insider community, or the I don't want to speak for Jeff, but from my aspect, if there's anything I can do, let me know. We're at your service, buddy.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I've been working on personally. So
wow, that's great stuff.
Nice.
So you're talking about taking a collection of information that you've had, and this is a question I had recently, which is out. You're obviously writing the book, but do you all keep journals of like not just these weird events that happen, but synchronistic events? Is there a place that you yourself personally or anybody on the team keeps track of so that it can be compared to logs and things later on to see like, oh, this was an uptick of wild synchronicities that happened, and it correlates?
I think that's something that we, like me and Tom, have had this conversation a lot more, because like the first couple of years, we didn't know this was going to happen, that it would become this. And so there were, and a lot of times those first smaller experiences, if you will, we were like, okay, whatever. We tried to explain it away, if you will. And so I know Tom has actually written down a bunch of stuff too, and I've done a bunch of video journals on my phone also. And so I don't know if I could give you a good answer of if there's a good database that shows a lot of the synchronicity stuff. But it's one of those things. I do hit on some of it, just ones that I know I've experienced. So go back to, I want to say it's season 2, where Travis woke up in Alabama and he got on the cameras and he was seeing this lightning storm, and he calls Eric and goes, "What the heck's going on out there?" And Eric walks out and he's like, "What are you talking about? It's windy out here, it's blustery, but there's no lightning like that." Yeah. Well, I covered a night shift that night. That year I was holding my active duty status as a full-time officer, and when we were filming, I was filming Monday through Friday, doing that schedule 12 to 16 hours a day, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night I was going and covering night shifts for the sheriff's department. And that day I woke up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, I gotta look at the cameras on my phone. I was like, why the hell am I looking at these cameras? Like, I need to be sleeping. I'm going back to work in 2 hours, and I get to the ranch on Monday and I find out that Travis and Eric are talking about what they see, and you see what was found in the video recording, with that craft that's coming out and doing all those crazy maneuvers and stuff. So it was just one of those things that, things like that happen. And so that's why I ask a lot of times now, like we're a lot better now where we ask each other, hey, did something happen at your house, or did something happen on the ranch? Like a lot of times Eric's kind of the point of contact. We all, hey, did something happen on the ranch? And then we tell them that if something happened at our house or we experienced something. And that's how we find out if other guys on the team have experienced something.
All data.
It's all data. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
It's all data. Wow. Okay. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for some questions. You guys in the chat, if you want to ask a question, we can get it up on the screen. We'll take a few of them. I'm not going to, I know we could go all night, and I know that Kaleb and doesn't have all night. So, Shannon and Jimm. So, but one thing I wanted to ask you about, and I know there was a little bit talked about, and hopefully this isn't one of those areas where you cannot speak of. First of all, the medicine balls. You were dropping all those medicine balls out. One of them you couldn't find. Did you ever find it?
Nope, never found it.
Okay, so it went into the vortex.
Yeah, pretty much. So, like, we have a joke that there's this old alien guy sitting in his living room, right, watching the show or whatever, and rockets come flying through his, right?
Yeah, the missing rocket that took off.
Right.
Nobody knows where it went. Yeah.
And all the other aliens are going, what is this crazy guy talking about? He's the only one experiencing it. And we're the one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. But yeah, that's kind of one of our inside jokes. But like, it's for those of you who may not know, we were trying to do this experiment where we're seeing if we can find like different anomalies above the triangle, right, or some kind of different visual anomalies. Like, is there something that we can literally physically see as something's passing through the area, right? And so we're going, what can we put through there? So we grabbed a bunch of these 20-pound medicine balls and we threw them out of the helicopter. And I was pretty nervous because I was like, oh man, this is like throwing a really heavy object out of a helicopter at 5,000 feet. I sure hope no one's on top of the base.
Yeah. Crash the roof of the command center. Yeah,
Yeah, right. And so we numbered all these medicine balls 1 through 10. and I had them all at my feet, and I dropped 5 of them at different altitudes from like 100 feet up to 1,000 feet or something. And we actually were able to get those ones back and throw them out again. So I did 5 at like 100 feet, and then we went up to another couple hundred feet, and we threw those ones out again. And then we finally went up to 5,000 feet, and it's where we're always trying to line up, because there's people in the triangle looking up at the helicopter, and we're in the helicopter looking down, and I'm literally like looking straight down going, there it is, like I'm down above it, but the guys in the triangle are going, you are nowhere near the triangle, right? So either our perceptions are off, or we don't know how to really look and line things up at these different altitudes. But anyways, I throw these, I only got 4 of them out, not all 5, because when I started throwing them out, it was really strange. We had this crazy weather system come in the moment I started throwing these out. I don't know, but I get these 4 out, and I wish I could have something where I could literally take what I've seen in my head and like put it on the screen for you guys, because I remember looking at and I could see all 4 of these things in a straight line going down, or what I perceived as a straight line, right? Obviously, we're moving forward, and so these things are, all 4 of these medicine balls are going down. And we come back out there the next day, and they're like, hey, let's go see if we can find them. And I was like, all right, before we go waste our time looking around, I'm going to jump on some of our camera systems and look around. And I happened to see one of them sitting at the base of the mesa. And so where the triangle area is, north across the canal, there's a part where the mesa turns, and almost like there's a cutout. And there's a pretty decent flat area through there. And that's where the ball landed. And so I was like, hey, I found one there. Pretty good chance we're going to find the other 3 there too. So we go back in there, and we find the first one that I threw, and about probably 60 to, well, maybe 50 yards directly west of it is the second one. And we're like, all right, so, and then we could see the 4th one, but we thought it was the 3rd one initially, because we were thinking, oh, so this one here, but we get over, and the one that we could see a little bit further over was the 4th one. So the 3rd one's missing. And in this area, it's flat, like, and yeah, there's like a little hill there, but the 3rd one's missing, and there's not a lot of brush. And I have looked all over that damn place. Like, I've gone out there when it's winter and all the vegetation's dead. I've gone walking inside the canal, like. That 3rd one that we've never found. And I've been up on top of the mesa there, Tom, everybody. We've always been looking for this, and we've never found it.
Yeah.
So
They went through a portal, and it's in a guy in Ireland. It's in his backyard.
I guess so.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly. Why not drop those chalk dust containers and see what happens? Oh.
We've had lots of discussions of what we can drop out, and we've tried a lot of different things. So some of that, you'll see some more of those ideas coming up.
Good. Fantastic. All right, let's see. Lindy, do you have, now we can't take them all, but I've seen some of them popping up here. Lindy, do you want to pop a question up here for Kaleb? If you can find a guy. I saw a couple of them. I can grab one too if you.
Yeah, I saw the one about the law enforcement. So I need those.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
European or yeah?
An African or European?
European.
As a security lawman, do you see any application of Pete's stuff in the area?
Yes, we do. We actually, one of my very good friends is a highway patrolman, and he actually has that stuff for accident recreation on highways and stuff. So yes, we do use that in application. Yeah.
Did you ever find out where those helicopters came from?
I don't know if they showed that. Which helicopters are we talking about? Are we talking about the 2 Chinooks or?
Probably.
Yeah, probably, because that's the only time you had more than one, I think, that was actually aired. Yeah. We actually saw guys sitting on the tailgate of the one as it was going by. They were looking out at you guys.
I want to say they came from. I think we found out they came from a special forces unit up in like Montana. I want to say or something.
Oh, I see one on here from Michael Reese says, "What type of tank did you go in?"
I was on the M1A1,
Oh.
the Abrams.
Very nice.
But I'm a dead breed. There are no more Marine Corps tankers, so we don't exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, I seen some questions about pre-ordering the book. I don't think it can. You have pre.
I'm not there yet. not there.
Will you be making the psychic edition?
Right.
Oh, let's see.
Sure,
Here.
I would be able to do some kind of pre-order and stuff once I get closer to that point. So,
Yeah.
I know I saw someone offer being to help proofread it and stuff. So if you're a good editor, yeah, I need help.
Mary. Thank you, Mary. So many donations, you guys, tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. And B. Jones, oh my gosh, you're nuts.
So
Thank you.
if I can just ask another quick question, Caleb, and again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and if I am, just tell me to shut up. But can you talk real quickly just a bit about the that amazing creepy sound that you shared with us at Phenomicon?
So Eric and I, so I guess we're gonna get it out there, okay?
Awesome.
And I actually talked to Eric today about that, and we're gonna get it knocked out here in the next couple of weeks. So
sweet.
It's been on the back burner because Eric and Tom have been doing a lot of updates and stuff with cameras and infrastructure on the ranch itself. And I didn't want to bother Eric when he had good weather, being able to do that. So now that it's cold and there's a lot more snow and stuff on the ground now, it's going to be something that we're going to be able to knock out. So yeah, I know there's been some people waiting on that. So it has not been.
I wasn't at Phenomicon, so I don't know. So now you just open a can of worms, but you don't have to answer if it's going to happen. Don't worry about it.
It's unlike anything I have ever heard, and it's one of those things that you really truly have to hear for yourself, and it sounds like we're going to be able to hear that fairly soon. But it's really
it's a sound that
really something
was heard and you recorded or that you've made. Okay.
So Don Mitchell, do you know who Don Mitchell is?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You've talked about him before.
So Don was south of the ranch about 5 miles. And he was out, it was getting close to dark, so it was in summer, so it was pretty late. And he was actually, let me pull this up. Because he sent me a message. But he ends up hearing the sound and he records it. And you can hear when he's out there, you can hear him like breathing when he's like running when this is going on and stuff. But so I shared that. I got permission from him and I shared it at Phenomicon with the insiders when they came in. And it was kind of neat. Jimm could tell you, he was there, and Jeff, that there were some dogs inside the room with us, and they did not like it at all.
At all. It like you could see instantly they were very uneasy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent this to me on June 21st. He said, "Hey brother, today and tonight pay attention if out and about after dark. Might catch something like this. Just don't be far from your vehicle so you can get out quick." So he was terrified when he caught this.
Wow.
And so, and you, like I said, when you listen to this recording, you can hear him breathing and as he's running at one point. Yeah, so it's very, very, very cool.
Wow.
But we're gonna go put it through a like a sound amplifier and all that stuff and really deep dive into it and get what we can out of it. But but this is what's cool is there's going to be something in season 5 that potentially connects to it, and I'm really excited because when we can talk about it a little bit more, it was right around the same time that we hear this.
Wow.
And that Don sends that to me. So
it reminds me of the kind of screaming and absolute anguish that people express when they hear me sing. So
wait a second.
I heard you sing and I did not. So there you go. You were backup singing, but yes. No. I was good with it. So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's an interested is asking a very interesting question. Any smells or other sensory clues? Thank you, Miriam. Gosh, you guys are awesome tonight. I really,
So like, can you expand on that a little bit, Jeff?
well, I'm just going by the question. This was interested to ask this question. That's all it said. And I'm sorry, Linda, I jumped in on you there. Linda's supposed to be handling this, and I saw that.
Maybe it's
Okay,
because
so
if people are saying it's like Bigfoot, that Bigfoot comes, I think, right?
Yeah.
Jeff is still supposed to teach me about Bigfoot. I know nothing about it. It's supposed to come with a smell. Is that right? Is that I don't know.
maybe. So that's actually been one of the topics, one of the first things that we talked about in earnest early on. And I brought that up was, hey, out here in the oil field, you're gonna get like H2S gas, and
Yep.
In lower counts, it smells like rotten eggs and stuff, right?
Right.
And one of the things is oil field workers, they get the little yellow canaries, right? And so you actually see us carrying those around in the first couple seasons,
Yep.
and I'm at the point now, I'm like, whatever. But the idea was because of things that other individuals on the ranch had reported with strange smells and things like that. Eric wanted to know if we were wearing those, if anybody ever got that smell, if those would go off. Because if someone had that smell and those canaries don't go off, to Eric, with some of the things that he found with the magnetic anomalies that have been recorded, and what he's found out here is it can mess with your mind. Like it can mess with you physically inside your head, so you think you're smelling something but you're not.
Right.
And so the idea was wearing those, and if they don't go off, it's more indicative that there's potentially this magnetic anomaly moving across the ranch. So
Yeah,
Wow.
that happens a lot to people when they're having neural issues due to magnetic anomalies, that they can smell
and
things
so
or see things or hear things.
And I know Eric has read things about people in hospitals with MRI machines that they have a lot of these same symptoms that we've reported out here, and due to Eric and some of the things that we've again recorded on the magnetic anomaly side of things, it lines up. So it's very interesting on maybe what's going on. And to answer your question, Miriam, it was pretty much like a figure, just like an outline, like a shadow. Yeah. Maybe not.
Not like this.
Maybe not what you're thinking, Shannon.
Whoa. Okay. Well.
Maybe it would have been a different reaction that I had.
I saw that Seth asked the question earlier about the shadow figure. Did yours by chance was it wearing a hat, or did it just simply appear to be just an outline of a figure?
Just like the outline, like the head, shoulders, and arms, kind of.
I've seen that myself.
No hat. So.
There's a question from Tim. I've been asking with no answer about the bones in the basement. It might have been a decoy to a secret entrance tunnel to somewhere at the basement. Please ask. And I think that was season 1. I think when they were looking in the basement of Homestead 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were like mice bones and stuff, if I remember right.
Yeah.
It is. So the really interesting thing is that was a closed off room. There was no.
Yeah. Completely solid concrete room.
Yeah. So I don't know how they got in there and that they, just very interesting. So any connection to like underground tunnels and stuff, I couldn't give you a good answer on that. I don't know. But that's what I pretty much remember from that. And I know that they got them tested and stuff. So I don't know what the actual like results were, but I don't have that clearance yet, I guess. I don't know.
I'm curious as to why there's a concrete room.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking
that
it
would
was
be
like
my question. Like, okay, about the bones, but why is there a concrete room in the first place?
And we were thinking that it was maybe like a cistern or something like that.
That would make sense.
And so I don't know. It's something that maybe we could do some more follow up on, but we've had so much different things and we get pulled in so many different directions a lot of times. And so
Right.
I think Tom might actually have some better answers on it because I know that he was really curious about why there was this concrete room like that in there. So
Yeah.
that's the best answer I think I could give you, honestly, when it comes to that.
The one question I had, and then we're going to wrap this up here in a couple minutes, because I know it's getting late. So the one of the greatest things that I think was seen, and I experienced anyway, besides the anomaly, which I put out this little promo thumbnail, and it had a picture of you, and then it had a picture of the anomaly, the one where the rocket went up and crashed into it. What happened there? I didn't do that. That's
Close
weird.
up on
Okay.
Jeff. I thought you were going to share something.
I know. I don't know what happened there. That was weird. So anyway, but when
That
the
you
rocket,
in the back?
when the rocket went up and hit the anomaly there, about
Yeah.
30 feet above the ranch, and then it exploded, and that had that weird thing. That was really, really cool. And when I put your picture next to it, for the thumbnail, I noticed you were wearing your cowboy hat, and it looked the way it was curled around the
Yeah,
side.
next up.
I was like,
Yeah.
it looks just like the anomaly. It looks like it's mirroring you. It's trying to make you, if you ever the abyss, remember the abyss anyway, it made me think of that. But my question was actually in last season when the helicopter was flying and Cameron had on the night vision goggles and he was talking about little orbs that were flying past him. And then when we saw the analysis that Eric had done and was showing you the little orb going into the mesa, and then it looked like this orb came out of the mesa and he flew past it. But to me, it looked like when it came out, when it looked to me, and I talked about this on the show, without the perspective of the equipment that you guys have and everything that you have there and Eric has, it looked to me like the orb just materialized right there. And then he flew past it in the helicopter and it was stationary. That's what it looked like to me. But
Mhm.
do you recall that? Was that like one of the big things you guys had for season 5 or 4 in your opinion?
Yeah, that was one of the really big ones that we found. And we've really tried to do deep dives on these recordings, to make sure that they're not potentially like some kind of reflection or
We know you do
refraction.
your due diligence. We know
We
that.
try to
Yep.
do our due diligence, right?
Yep.
And it's one of those things that like I guess I want to hit on this a little bit. Is sometimes we don't get to do as much as we would like to, and it's something that really kind of irks us. As at times we don't feel like we have access to some of that stuff when we should, and be able to really go through it and make that determination. And that one we were actually able to really deep dive into.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And when you see the native footage of it, you can definitely see that it's out in the distance, and you see this object moving above the mesa in a direction, and then it shoots and changes direction, then shoots down into the ground,
Yep.
where
Yep.
like it's right down into the mesa right there in the East Canyons, right?
Right.
And then as we're moving through in the helicopter, because like it was me, Eric, Brandon, Cameron, obviously, and I want to say a camera guy that were all in the helicopter. And actually, and when the helicopter goes through and you see it come out of that spot, you can in the native footage you can clearly see that this thing is moving through the
Oh,
film.
okay. All right.
And we actually, we tore that one apart and really looked into it because we were like, is this really what we're thinking it is? And so we really did a lot more dive into that. And so it's been a very big one that we've talked about, and we tried to go through. And in relation to that, there's some stuff that obviously I can't talk to yet.
Yep.
And again, like season 5 is going to have some really cool stuff.
That one was amazing to me. It truly was because, and we've had, now you're getting all this, the whistleblowers and all these people that are Goresh and all these guys that are talking about all this information. And now we're starting to see these things, elsewhere. It just validates what you guys are doing, because people before would have said, oh, they're just, they're poo-pooing what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch. And it's like, I told you so. Look at what they're finding out there, and here's direct evidence of something. And then you've got those 2 orange orbs when the Blazing Bear guys were playing, which was another huge moment for me, quite honestly, because you
Yeah.
have something heating up on the mesa, and then you have those 2 orange orbs zoop zoop go into the mesa.
Oh yeah, and there was some like when we're doing our like reviews, and we're able to kind of sit down as a team and talk about it, so they can get those review scenes for the show. Sometimes we're in there for 8 to 10 hours talking about the stuff, exploring different options and talking about different stuff. And that one there's some stuff in there that I don't know if they've shown it or not, but like when you see the difference in changes in temperature and things like that, it's really compelling of what's going on. So yeah, and
Wow.
probably I don't know if I should share that story actually. So
Okay.
because
Something I
well,
hadn't. No, go please.
go ahead, go ahead,
If you're gonna tell a story, I'm not gonna stop you.
go ahead. Okay.
I was just gonna ask. I suppose I hadn't thought about it until right now. But do you all ever feel like when you're filming, you have to rush through something that happens because you have to keep filming, and you have to
Sometimes.
keep filming new stuff for every new episode? If you ever feel like you don't get to spend enough time with an event that's happened.
Yeah, it kind of goes both. There's ones that I definitely feel like we're like there's ones that really you get excited about, and you want to spend more time on, and when you really think that when you're going through things and you really start understanding like the implications of potentially what's happening and what we're catching, yeah, it's hard not to want to sit there and talk about it more. And then there's other ones where they're like, oh, look, like they want to talk, like production or someone wants to talk more about something. We're like
So they
no,
drag it out.
and
for
they drag
something.
some of it out, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's some things like that it's because again, you have the scientific investigation side and the goals that we're trying to get there. Then you have the production side and what they're trying to accomplish too, right? And so we're having to do this meet in the middle,
Yep.
Yeah.
trying to figure it out as we go. And obviously there's times where butting heads happens and things like that. So
Yep. All right, last one for me, and then I'll let Shannon and Jimm ask one too. But the last one for me, and this was interested, and it was on my list, interested. So I had this question also: the game camera orb that showed up in the field.
mhm.
That thing was that was another huge moment for me. Any further analysis on that you all can speak of on that, other than what was shown on season 4?
So there's not a lot to go off of. Obviously, it's
Yep.
literally like a single frame.
Yep.
But to me, it's a timing thing for me. Is we happen to get that one frame at that one time, and it was a pretty, if I remember right, it's a lot of wind out there, and I don't want to say there was a lot of camera. We had a lot of footage and stuff, and I want to say the biggest thing that stuck out to me with that was the timing of that. We literally caught that one frame, and that's probably the biggest thing for me. That the biggest takeaway from it was the chances of getting it.
Yeah.
And other than that, like we can't give you more of a definite size, because it's a single camera frame
Yeah.
looking one
Not
direction.
much
We
to
don't.
go on. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if we'd have had other cameras maybe looking, and if we'd have been able to capture more frames, maybe give you a little bit more. And that's where like the some of the stuff that we've caught, and this is what gets really cool with like the insiders is like we've been able to do this a little bit, especially with Eric, is we've been able to go through and do some analysis a little on some videos every once in a while, and Eric's able to jump to some different camera views, and there's something coming out in season 5 that references something that happened in season 4 with but it comes from a different camera angle, and so it's like when people see it, it's real. I'm really excited about that one.
Sweet. All right.
Very
There's
exciting.
a question real quick from Samantha. Does the film crew have a high turnover rate due to the crazy experiences, witness and experiences, or is the crew pretty consistent?
So there's always turnover. So the film industry is very fickle like that, where you could be on a job one year and the next year you're not on it, kind of thing. So there have been people that just aren't there because they're working on something else or they weren't invited back, kind of thing. But there have been some individuals that have been on the ranch, a part of the crew, that will not come back.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and because of some stuff that happened. But I would say we did have a major crew change 2 years ago. And the crew that we've had the last 2 years are absolutely phenomenal. I really hit it off with them because a lot of them have done like live PD and stuff. So they've hung out with cops and stuff a lot, and they're like, oh, and so we can BS together really well. Lots of good guys, and for the main part, I would say we've had a pretty consistent crew, and it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of funny because I want to say like 3 or 4 of them have been here since season 1, and they kind of wear it as like, yeah, I've been here since the first season, like
Yeah.
And they're like, all you other new guys, kind of thing. But so yeah, I would say the last 2 years pretty consistent. They try to get a lot of the same people back because they know what's going on, and if they fit well, it just keeps everything smooth. And especially, I can't say enough about our camera guys and our sound guys and the guys that we have out here, and a lot of really good guys.
That's cool. Shannon, Jimm, you guys can jump in. Last
Shannon,
thoughts?
I'll let you go first.
I wasn't prepared.
No problem.
I'll let you go first, and I'll think while you're talking.
Oh, geez. Well,
What he was trying to do.
I know.
well, as for me, it's not so much any questions that I have to ask, other than the fact that Kaleb, you mentioned you don't really kind of follow a lot what goes on in the news, and I certainly don't blame you. It's such a dark and depressing world, and I find that my days are a lot brighter and happier when I don't read the news. But there's some pretty significant things that have been happening in the realm of UAP disclosure and whatnot, and I just have to wonder: do you ever think, are there really no coincidences that all these things are starting to happen around us, not just on the ranch, but in the greater scope of the world? How now there's all this talk of disclosure, and today we had members of the House of Representatives saying that the American people deserve full disclosure. They deserve all the transparency and all that. And I'm just wondering, do you or any of your colleagues on the ranch, do you guys feel that that just everything is all coming together at the right time for a reason, and that maybe you guys were put together for a reason by a higher power, for want of a better word? As crazy as that sounds from crazy old Jimm.
Well, there's another word, and Shannon actually brought that word up: synchronicities, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So it obviously has not been lost on us from season 1 and onward, with us coming out with the show and trying to stay with like a scientific mindset of what we're experiencing. And this last year, I couldn't help but think, a lot of these experiments are turning into experiences for me. And I can't differentiate between the two, if you will. And yeah, it's very cool I guess on the way I look at it is, with what we're doing out here on the ranch, and like the experiences that I've had off and on, and to kind of answer a question earlier, is I've had a lot of people, mostly law enforcement guys, come up and share experiences with me the last couple of years because of the show. And we talk about the stigma of that's surrounding the realm, if you will. And it's like, how do we fix that? And you asked Eric one day a question of how can you guys help as like content creators and stuff. And I'm sure you remember what he told you,
Yep.
Elevate the discourse and elevate the
discourse
and reboot the narrative, right? And so
reboot the narrative.
I know that a lot of discussions happen because of what we're doing, and we're making it public, and what we're reporting and the data that we're able to show, especially the last 2 or 3 years. Because again, the first 2 were kind of, we were still trying to figure it out and trying to figure out what equipment to even bring out here. But it's really hard to argue, I think, at this point, showing all the different modalities or all the different equipment that we've brought out through these third-party experts, and they've all had stuff happen or show really crazy finds and inside the data itself,
Right.
So it's something that we do talk about, and I think that's where we are leading the charge on some of this, I think.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm not trying to be boisterous or anything like that. It's just kind of where we're at, and I think that's where some of us on the team, I think we take that very serious. Like, that's why we're very protective of what we try to present and how they present it and stuff out, and showing that we're trying to stay scientifically minded.
Yep.
And that's where, like, my book, I'm trying to just do it chronologically and try to get a certain point across, because I'm not trying to blow smoke up, people's pipes about stuff. I'm just like, this is what happened. Here's the photos that go with it. Here's your evidence. You can make that decision, right?
Right.
And that's an attitude that I try to maintain. Because again, at the same time, it's like, if I try to stay in law enforcement and stuff, my word is my job.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the cool ones, is when I have officers or family members of officers come to me and they say, look, my brother, my uncle, whoever's in law enforcement, and they first started watching the show or hearing about it, and they're like, oh, it's bull crap, whatever. But then they find out that I'm an officer, and they're like, yeah, he's not going to be on there just saying stuff.
Exactly.
Because I've literally been in a courtroom, sworn in, testifying about a guy who killed another dude, and my word is going to put him in jail for a very long time. So I do truly believe that our words have meaning and power behind them.
Absolutely.
And I have a really hard time with people who hide behind like paper contracts and stuff, because they'll say one thing to you and then they totally go behind it. And then they're like, well, my contract. It's like, screw you, dude. Like, that's not how I was raised. It's not how, I grew up in a farming community. Your farmers are literally
your
people,
word is your bond.
Yes. And so it's like, I take that very serious.
Yep.
Just like I take any oath I have taken. So I take my oath to the country very serious that I took as a Marine. I take my oath as an officer very seriously. So, and that's why I maybe I'm a little OCD about it, but that's like my book. And when I'm talking about stuff like this, I try to be very concise, and I try to think about how I say things, and if how I've said and experienced something 2 years ago, am I unintentionally changing it by chance, or am I saying it the same way as I did 2 years ago?
Well, that's elevating the discourse right there.
Yep.
Exactly. And I'll just wrap up with just saying that's one of the things that really impresses me the most about you as an individual, Kaleb, and also about your team members, is that you are all men of great integrity. And
I agree.
Your actions absolutely support that statement. And anybody that disagrees with me on that, I'll have, strong New York style words with them. Trust me, because you guys are truly, for me anyway, you as an insider, but as an outsider looking in, I just look at the organization that you have there on the ranch that Brandon has assembled, and that you guys have continued to expand upon by bringing in people like Jay Stratton and Pete Kelsey and Don and that whole team. There's no other operation out there on TV or otherwise that I'm aware of that brings in people that are that credentialed and people that have that same level of credibility that to me, anybody that tries to cast aspersions on it really aren't doing their homework. If they would just simply take a step back from their bias, because I'll admit it, 5-6 years ago, I would have never bought into any of the UFO UAP stuff that has now become part of our mainstream consciousness. And why is that? Because because quite frankly, of people like you and Travis and Eric and all the work that you're doing, and the fact that you're being driven by the data, it's what really separates you from any other similar operation or similar TV show that is out there. You are truly, in my opinion, and that's what really draws me to the show and draws me to all of Skinwalker Ranch, is the fact that you are working on things that are truly have the ramifications of changing everything we understand about our world, our universe, and are the very fabric of reality and who we are and what our place is in all of it. And for me, it's just been a privilege to get to know you, Kaleb, and you as well, Shannon and Jeff, and all the awesome people that are here in the live chat, Michelle and B. Jones and Christy and all the great people that I've met through the Insider program. It just shows that when you're on the right path, like I believe you guys are, people are drawn to you, people that are naturally curious and that want to know these things. And it's just been such a wonderful opportunity and blessing for me to be able to be a part of that as an insider, and even more so to get to know you as a person, Kaleb, and what a wonderful human being you are. So just want to say thank you to you and to Jeff for hosting this, and just all of you for being here. It's the year that I've had has been a real challenging year for a lot of reasons, but it always makes me feel good to know that I'm connected with people like all of you in this greater community. It's really one of the things that I value the most in my life right now. So thank you, and hats off to you, sir. And I would love to get you and Chris Bartell together on a show sometime.
Oh, we're gonna have to do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Whether it's on my show or Jeff's show, I would love to be a part of that, and just would love to get you guys there, talking shop back and forth together. And Bartell again is just another one of those guys that is cut from the same cloth, of being a man of great integrity and just an awesome person all the way around. And I wish more people could see that about you, Kaleb, and the team as a whole. And
I agree.
Just know that I'm always there on your side and in your court, buddy. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Jimm. I appreciate it.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. I mean, I did have a question that I prepared, and now it's like, do I even ask it? Because I do second what you said.
I'm sorry. I talk too much. I'm so sorry.
No, you don't. No, it was perfect and it was beautiful, and it summed up, I think, how everybody feels.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Just feels awkward. Like, do I ask a question?
Go ahead. You got 3 seconds.
I think this is a decent final question, perhaps, and it's sort of in 2 parts. I think people are talking right now about where they think things are going with this whole subject in general, right? We're seeing all of the congressional talk about it. We're seeing it in mainstream media, all of that.
Yeah.
So, and Skinwalker Ranch is right at the center of it, which is interesting. People realizing that it's at the center of it, coming back around and being like, oh, we should have been paying attention. So the question would be, where do you see this in 5 years, and where do you hope it is in 5 years? Those can be very different things.
Yeah.
Good question.
Or even 3 years. I would say 5 years, though. Maybe 3 years. Who knows?
Yeah,
whatever.
3 to 5 years, right? Do I have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, right?
Right.
I'm lucky if I have a 2-hour plan these days.
Right.
It's true. I mean, because you've been there, you said, for 6 years, right? 8 years? 6 years. Okay.
I've been here. I've been 6 years. Probably, I'd have to look, but about 6 years. Eric, Tom, 8 years, depending.
So a lot's happened in those 6 years for you personally and professionally. So I do wonder, what were you thinking that same amount of time into the future?
Obviously, I'd like it to continue with the investigation, and I'd love to be able to stay a part of it and continue fulfilling the role of security and helping in any way I can with the investigation with Eric and the team. So obviously, I'd love to be here another 5 years doing this, and that's what I'm pulling for, is it for it to go, and hopefully we can get better answers and better equipment. And I think it would be cool because I think we've seen this. Is there's I'll tell you, one of the third parties that you're going to see in season 5, they came out earlier in one of the earlier seasons, and with what happened, they took it like as a challenge because of what happened with their stuff, and they're like, we came back and we buffed this and this and this and this, and you're going to see that, and yeah, you'll see what happened, and so it's like it's really cool because I think on top of I think being one of the main topics and one of the leaders in like the UFO realm, or like with Congress and disclosure and all this stuff, I do think that we are that leader.
And with consciousness, because at every conference I go to that has nothing to do with UFOs, Skinwalker Ranch is always like right under the surface. It always gets mentioned by someone in some presentation.
We are touching so many different subjects, and we are showing and getting crazy results and all these different things. And there's things that you guys haven't seen from the show, but we've had different modalities. We've had different people out here doing different stuff, and that's crossed over in some of these lines or these different realms, if you will. And we've had crazy stuff that, like I ask Eric about his remote viewing stuff and his.
I have, yeah. No,
right.
I've had the conversation, yeah. And I mean, and that's what's funny is like I was at a remote viewing / Monroe conference a couple of months ago, and I mean, I think there was a whole presentation on Skinwalker Ranch, to be honest with you.
And so it's like, hearing like say numbers from some of the streaming services. And I know this is something that I probably shouldn't let on how much I know in some of that, but I can tell you easily, at least 1 in every 3 people in the U.S. has seen the show easily.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about overseas and stuff, right? And it's like when people see more and more of it, like I've gotten more messages this last year because they've only put season 2 on, like, say, Netflix. And when I get messages from people that I haven't seen in 20 years from like high school and stuff, I'm going, wait a minute, you're a part of this? It's pretty cool. And just seeing how far reaching it really is, And one of the other things that I was really thinking about is, and using the example of that third party that came out, is that the technology that we might be influencing. And the changes in technology that we might see because of what we're having happen out here. Because just take your GPS stuff that we're seeing out here, and I don't know how much they voiced it in the show, but a very powerful conversation that we have all the time in regards to GPS is, think about what we've seen happen with GPS out here, how we can have results that show this GPS. Like, I think you guys may have seen this where Eric put the cow tag GPSs in pairs all across the ranch to see what would happen over time. And we see on multiple of these devices in different locations, GPS wandering up to like a mile and a half.
Wow.
And when you understand that every single weapon system that most countries are running off of, if not all, rely on GPS in some way. So a mile and a half difference of a cruise missile
is a big difference.
Yeah,
huge difference.
That's a huge difference.
Yes. It's a huge difference, especially say if you're a dude down in the trenches and you're calling in close air support.
Right.
Even 50 feet's a big deal.
Yeah.
Or 10 feet, So when you realize the potential of what we're catching out here, and go back and watch season 4, and when you see Omnitech come out, and we literally clear as day, clearest day you could ask for out here, set up in the triangle, and we catch the International Space Station on the horizon of the Earth.
Yeah.
And you understand that, we picked it up right there, and then another couple degrees up, it's gone, and we can't catch it. And it literally goes all the way over us, and we don't pick it up again until it's all the way over on the east.
That was crazy.
Horizon. And that's not the only thing that happened with that. With with what we've seen and what we've literally caught hard data wise, it's like, what changes are we going to potentially be the cause of for a lot of technologies that people rely on every day? And what you see with our phones and how they're tied to GPS and things like that, it's like, it's really humbling when you realize like stuff that we could be making changes in, and especially with daily lives and stuff. And, you know, kind of going back to the book is like another thing is like, I don't know, maybe I can help somebody in an experience or something, or maybe give somebody a different perspective that helps them through something. I don't know. I hope so.
I guarantee it. I think about the fact that the ranch made you become a law enforcement officer, and how many people you've probably helped doing that.
Yep.
There's no
Just in
coincidences.
general.
No,
Yeah,
there are no coincidences.
I think that's for sure. That could be. Yeah.
Well, remember, Jeff, I think it was on one of your earlier shows here earlier in the year, Jeff, where we had Pete Kelsey on, and Pete had mentioned how the GPS is tied in with time.
Yes.
And so there's that, and there was that time dilation, that time slippage, if you will, of what was it? It was like a quarter of a second or something like that. And even something as seemingly minuscule as that is significant. It's huge. The implications of it.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah, and season 5, you guys are gonna
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah,
I got to make that shirt for you guys. So stay tuned. And I'm gonna have like,
yeah, it needs to be in the shop.
Skinwalker Ranch. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's gonna be my face. Stay tuned. That's my T-shirt right there for you guys.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's very cool, and you know. Where we're at now, I know that there's some discussions, there's some things that need to change, and I hope that we can get those things worked out so we can give better information, and people, you know, we're able to continue to grow that trust with more and more people, you know, and that's one of those things that, you know, there's obviously things that where people butt heads and stuff, but yeah, I see it going for years. I think we've shown too much, and when people really get the big picture and see everything, it's really going to turn heads. You know,
well, I'd say even without the show, though, I mean, what you're doing without cameras present is
for sure
monumental research. Like, it's not gonna. The way I view it, I often forget that there is a show, to be honest with you, until it comes time for it to be on, just because of being so involved through the insiders. Like, I completely forget. I'm like, oh, right, there's a television program.
I'm sure you guys as insiders hate when we're actually filming and doing
we do, because we lose so much access.
Everything gets shut down so much. And you know, that's one of the cool things is like, that's probably where, because I'm actually kind of at the point with where I'm writing, where I'm getting into where the insiders start showing up, and Shannon and Jimm and Jeff, I know you guys have been on when things have happened, and I know there's people on the chat that I've seen their names pop out to me because I've had conversations with them, and they've been on when things have happened. And you know, one of the really cool ones for me, if you will, cool experiences has been seeing all the weird stuff that the insiders are reporting at their house. And like Shannon, I know where you live and how far away you're at. Like, you know, and I'm not going to share that information. Like, that's up to you. But there's things like that where people share those experiences, especially with like electronic devices and stuff. And I'm sitting over here going, "Oh, really?"
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, and it doesn't stop. It's not like I would have expected it to like eventually just stop, but it doesn't, which is funny because I can't remember who told me. Maybe it was Michelle that said that like once you're in this, there's no getting out of it. And I think that's right. There's no getting out.
Once you watch the ranch watches you back.
Yeah, see, yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, people are like, "Oh, I need to go to the ranch." I'm like, "No, you don't. Just jump in and watch a camera, and you might pick something up. I don't know." And as crazy as that sounds, I know.
Yep.
No, I mean,
And,
It
and
does
it's
sound
funny.
crazy. It's not like you can talk about it with anybody except for you guys. And I guess
Yeah.
the internet, now that it's on the internet.
And yeah, it's literally, it is crazy when those things, and see, even after all the stuff I've gone through and I've seen and that I'm talking about with on podcasts or in the book or whatnot, it's still one of those things where I'm like, really, like, no way, like,
I know. Yeah.
how can anybody believe some of this stuff? And that's where I'm like, I guess it's happened, and you just keep moving forward, and I know I've been asked this quite a bit, like, if thing like the novelty or whatever wears off, and yeah, there's definitely things where I'm like, oh, that happened again, whatever, and I think Eric and Tom actually shared this at Phenomicon in one of the panels is they they had that attitude. They were like, okay, really, Ranch? That's all you've got? And
Don't
then
say that. Never say that. That's all you got.
right,
Oh
yeah,
man.
and then literally all hell breaks loose.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and so we're like, okay, and it's almost like you get that attitude a little bit. So
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Go ahead, Shannon. You had something to say there.
No, I had nothing to say.
Oh,
Nothing to say except for
okay.
thank you. And this has
Well,
been
I'll tell you what, it's
Yes.
a big thank you to Kaleb and for
Yes.
Jimm for helping me get this set up. I really appreciate you, Jimm, for that, and everybody
My
showing up
pleasure.
tonight. Yeah, and lastly, I'll just say too, talking about how the ranch watches you. Right behind me, right here, next to my plasma ball, right there is a printer, and that printer is on the network. And as I was preparing, literally, a couple hours ago, as I was preparing, the thing started just pumping out test sheets. And I'm
Gibberish.
like, what's going on? I turned it off, turned it back on. It was fine. Just before the show started pumping out test sheets again. I'm like, it has never done that. Never. Why did it do it tonight just before the show?
yeah, it's really cool when you have something that shouldn't be working, or it's unplugged or something, and it does something, and you're like,
Yeah.
So I got to know, Kaleb. I know that Dragon is a Raiders fan, but what's your favorite NFL team?
Uh-oh.
oh man,
Do you have one?
I don't know if I'm ready to come out with that kind of thing.
As long as it's not the Broncos. Sorry, John. We're good.
No, yeah. I honestly I haven't followed too many major sports a lot because um, I'm sick of their pandering stuff. I always enjoyed the Vikings. I always enjoyed the Panthers, but I'm like, I guess I just look at stuff and I'm like, quit going along with stuff, just so I'm like, stand by what your principles are, and that's my attitude a lot of this. And one of my things is like, yeah, I was in the Marines, so yeah, I have my Marine Corps tattoo. I played college ball. I did enough stuff, and I've never been one where I'm going to wear someone else's jersey. I can respect people for their athletic ability. I can respect people for like how amazing of athletes or how smart they are or the work that they've done. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to take that stuff away, but I'm like, someone mentioned, I think, like the Roman Empire or something earlier, and I'm like, I really do think we're at the point where it's breads and circuses at this point.
Pretty close to it.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm, I enjoy rugby more than I enjoy football at this point because all the rugby players don't care and they just go out and play rugby.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I actually, I enjoy college football. I still enjoy watching that stuff, but it's not like I'm diehard fan for anybody anymore because I'm just like, I'm sick of the shit,
Right.
to tell you the truth. So,
yep. All
Fair
right.
enough.
Well,
Yeah,
on
it's
that
just-
note, we're going to wrap it up tonight. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Tell you what, Kaleb, thank you so very
Yes.
much.
Privilege and an honor, Kaleb.
We have
Thank
to
you.
have you back on the show again, and maybe we can jump over to Soul of the Unexplained, and we'll have you and
Roger and I would love to.
Ah.
We got to catch up with you, Kaleb. Roger's looking forward to getting caught up with you again, and so much to talk to you about. And stick around in the green room. I got some other stuff to tell you after we wrap up here. But
cool, sounds good. Yeah, and guys, thank you so much for inviting me on. I really enjoyed it. and I'd be happy to come on whenever you guys would like to have me on and have questions or anything. I'm more than happy to jump on whenever you guys would like me to. So
Awesome.
Uh,
Thank you.
really
you.
enjoyed it. So thank you guys.
Yep. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Shannon. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, folks, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And as always, I really appreciate it. All the donations and everything tonight. Thank you very, very much. It was really nice of you all. Hope you all enjoyed it, and don't forget to tell your friends. And there you go. There's some good.
I have to give a plug for mint M&Ms. They only come out this time of year, and they are so good. Not as good as tacos, but
Not good as tacos,
this is my new crack cocaine, mint M&Ms.
Oh my
Try them,
gosh.
you will love them.
Yeah, please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the show tonight. We really appreciate it. Does help a lot. And also tell your friends about this. Anybody that you know that likes this stuff, loves Skinwalker Ranch, tell them about this. Tell them they can go watch this show after. It'll be out on YouTube. It'll stay there forever until they finally get tired of me and kick me out. So appreciate it all. And we're going to wrap it up. And we got some more stuff coming. We're going to do some more insiders insights. And we got to drag Shannon back on here. And we got to get Michelle to come. I don't know. We'll try. I don't know about that. She keeps telling me no and whatnot. But we'll get that going.
Oh, I bet I can convince her.
Oh, all right. All right. So we'll catch you next time right here on the J Free 906 podcast. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.